In a village where darkness ruled the hours after sunset, her window burned with a steady yellow glow, unchanging, unblinking. Night after night, while other houses surrendered to sleep, she remained awake, seated perfectly upright by the narrow window of her stone house. The villagers spoke of her only in hushed tones. "She's waiting," they said. "For whom?" I asked. "For her husband." I soon learned the husband had been buried 27 years ago. Curiosity, man's oldest curse, drove me to her door. She answered before I knocked. Her face was pale but not weak. Her eyes were wide, glassy, and painfully alert. Eyes that had forgotten how to close. "You have come late," she said softly. "But that is all right. He forgives lateness." "You mean your husband?" I asked. She smiled. "Yes. He promised me he would return before I slept again." I noticed then there was no bed in her house, no pillow, no blanket, only a single wooden chair facing the window. "How long have you been awake?" I asked. She tilted her head, thinking. "Since the night he knocked from beneath the earth." A chill crept through me. She continued calmly. "I heard him, faintly at first, like fingers against wood. He said, 'Do not sleep. If you sleep, I will forget the way back.' I left before dusk returned, unsettled yet ashamed of my fear. That night, I woke to a sound I pray never to hear again. Knocking, not on my door. From the walls, slow, patient. From within the stone itself. The entire village lay awake now, listening as the sound traveled, house to house, seeking. At exactly 3:12 a.m., her window went dark for the first time in decades. By morning, the widow's house stood empty. The chair remained, the door was open, and her grave, next to her husband's, was found disturbed from the inside, the soil pressed outward, as if something had risen. They buried the coffin again, deeper this time. But even now, when night grows long and my eyes grow heavy, I hear a voice whisper through the dark, "Do not sleep, or I will lose you again." And somewhere, a lamp is still burning. The nights that followed were not nights at all. Sleep became an enemy. The moment my eyes closed, the knocking returned. No longer distant, no longer searching. It had learned where I lived. I began to notice changes in the village. Windows stayed lit longer. Lamps burned until the oil died. Faces grew hollow. Eyes rimmed red. No one spoke of dreams anymore, because no one was dreaming. Old Mrs. Calder was the first after the widow. She was found seated upright at her kitchen table, eyes open, fingers dug so hard into the wood that splinters pierced her skin. On the wall behind her, written in charcoal, were the words, "I stayed awake. He remembered me." That night, I returned to the widow's house. The door resisted me, as if swollen from within, but yielded with a sound like a sigh. Dust lay thick, yet the air was warm. Too warm. The chair still faced the window, but it was no longer empty. The widow sat there again. Her skin had darkened, pulled tight as burial cloth. Her eyes, oh God, her eyes were no longer human. They reflected no light, only depth, like open graves. "You shouldn't have come," she said gently. "He's closer now." "Where is he?" I asked, though every instinct screamed against hearing the answer. She lifted a trembling finger and pressed it against the wall. The knocking began instantly, closer than ever, faster, eager. "He doesn't like being forgotten," she whispered. "And sleep makes us forget." The wall cracked, not shattered, cracked, like bone under pressure. From the fissure seeped soil, then the smell, old earth, rot, and something else. Something that had learned patience underground. A hand emerged, gray, swollen, fingernails split and black. Then another. I fled before I could see the face. By morning, 3 more lamps had gone dark across the village. And tonight, for the first time since childhood, I feel sleep pulling at me. The knocking has stopped. That is what frightens me most. Silence settled over the village like a held breath. No knocking, no whispers, No lamps burning through the night. That silence was worse than the sound. People began to sleep again, and that was the mistake. On the fourth night, I dreamed. I stood in the widow's house. The chair was empty, the window black. Behind me, someone breathed. Not close, not far, inside the walls. A voice spoke, soft and pleased. "You slept." I woke screaming, my sheets damp with earth. When dawn came, the church bell did not ring. Father Holloway was found kneeling at the altar, eyes closed peacefully, hands folded, as if in prayer. But his shadow stretched far too long, crawling up the walls, reaching toward the ceiling like grasping fingers. They tried to wake him. He did not stir. When they lifted him, soil spilled from his mouth. By evening, the widow's house was no longer empty. Lights glowed again, dozens of them, though the house had only one window. Shapes moved behind the stone, pressing outward, as if the walls had grown thin and flexible. I realized then the truth that the widow had accepted long ago. He was not returning for one soul. He was collecting memory. Each sleeper fed him. Each dream gave him form. Each forgotten face strengthened his way back. That night, the knocking returned, but now it came from beneath the ground itself. The earth trembled, graves shifted, and across the village, people woke at the same moment, sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, suddenly afraid of sleep, suddenly remembering a promise they did not recall making. I write this by lamplight, my eyes burning, my hands shaking, because outside my door, something is standing very still. It is not knocking, it is waiting. By the seventh night, no one argued anymore. Sleep was forbidden. Families sat together in silence, lamps between them, watching one another's eyes like wardens. Children were slapped awake. Old men tied themselves to chairs. Mothers sang until their voices bled. But the thing beneath us was patient. At midnight, the ground split. Not violently, reverently, like a grave opening itself. From every disturbed grave, the same figure rose piece by piece, assembled from remembrance. Faces flickered across its form. Husbands, wives, children, features borrowed, never owned. It wore the widow's husband's face last, only for a moment. Then it spoke, not with one mouth, but with all of them. "You slept." The lamps went out together. Darkness fell so complete, it felt intentional. When light returned, the village was gone, not destroyed, emptied. No bodies, no blood, no struggle, only chairs by windows. Lamps burned low, eyes scratched into walls, and in the center of the village, a single new house stood where the church had been. Its window was lit. Inside, rows of figures sat upright, eyes open, unmoving, keeping watch, keeping memory alive. I alone survived because I did not stay awake. At the final moment, exhausted beyond fear, I closed my eyes and forgot. That is what saved me. Now years later, I pass that road sometimes. The house is still there, and every night, a new light appears in a new window. Years have passed since I fled that place, yet time has not loosened its grip on me. Sleep returned, but it came broken, fragmented into shallow hours filled with half-dreams and the weight of something unfinished. I learned that forgetting is never complete. It merely hides itself deeper, like a body buried where the soil still breathes. I moved from town to town, cities, crowds, noise. None of it helped. Wherever night fell quietly enough, I felt it again. The sensation of being remembered by something that should not know me. I began to notice a pattern. In every place I stayed too long, someone stopped sleeping. A woman in a boarding house who sat by her window all night, staring into the street. A watchman who claimed rest made his thoughts too loud. A child who screamed if his eyes were closed, begging his mother not to let him forget. The man under the floor. They all used the same words. Not taught, not shared, remembered. One winter evening, while passing a remote road I swore I would never walk again, I saw it. The house. Not the same stones, not the same shape, yet unmistakably the same presence. A single window burned with steady light, unmoving, unblinking. Around it stood no village, no church, no graves, only empty land, as if the world itself had stepped back in fear. I did not approach. I understood then what the widow had known, what the village learned too late. It does not need roots in one place. It travels through memory, through stories, through those who stay awake too long, fearing sleep more than death. And now, through me. Because by writing this, by setting these words down, I have done the one thing I swore never to do again. I have remembered. Tonight, my lamp is burning. I tell myself it is for comfort. I tell myself I am only tired. But outside my door, the silence has weight. And deep within the walls, not knocking, not scraping, something waits, confident that eventually, every watcher must blink.